Disclaimer. This podcast is for informational and inspirational purposes only. I'm not a licensed therapist, psychologist, or medical professional. The insights shared on The Inner Spectrum reflect personal experiences, research, and opinions, and are not suitable for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult a qualified expert for personalized support. True strength in a room does not manifest through outward bursts of emotion. Rather, it is found in the quiet certainty of restraint. Where children may react impulsively to their feelings, healthy adults are in tune with their emotions, yet choose to respond with logic and clear intent. Welcome to this week's episode, The Inner Spectrum, Emotional Intelligence, Literacy, and Agility, where we explore and decide how to perceive, understand, and manage emotions effectively with insights from experts like Daniel Goleman, Susan David, and Brené Brown. Welcome to the DELCÂ podcast, a diary on health, wellness, business, travel, and everything in between. I'm your host, Cassandra De Pecol, and today we're going to be diving into some thought-provoking discussions around controlling our emotions as adults, something that might seem easy until we're in the heat of the moment. Today on the DELCÂ podcast, The Inner Spectrum, Emotional Intelligence, Literacy, and Agility, I'm Cassandra De Pecol. As adults, we're constantly fighting the urge to act on emotion. One scenario that comes to mind is when, in March of 2023, TikTok CEO Shou Chew sat before a room full of U.S. senators, many of whom seemed to have little to no understanding of what TikTok actually represents to the 170 million Americans who use it. He was unfairly judged and criticized by some senators who assumed he had ties to the Chinese Communist Party, which many believe was based solely on how he looks. It's worth noting that a few senators didn't even realize Singapore, his home country, is an independent nation. It's hard to imagine Mark Zuckerberg or even Evan Spiegel facing the same assumptions during their testimonies, likely because they're white. Some senators even raised their voices at Chew and became visibly emotional during their ill-prepared questioning. Yet, through it all, Chew remained composed. He stayed neutral, approachable, and never once raised his voice or lost control. Many of us watching were struck by how professionally he held his composure through hours of repeated testimony. It would have been so easy to just lash out, make a defensive remark, or even just walk out. But the restraint and intelligence he demonstrated took a profound level of emotional regulation and maturity. That's something many of us are still trying to master well into adulthood. How many times has someone cut you off, flipped you off, and sped away? We know they weren't regulating their emotions, but if you're honest, were you? Or think about that tense work call when someone overreacted and later apologized because they were having a bad day. Maybe it was your parent, sibling, or friend who took out their frustration on you. Or maybe it was you. Anger, sadness, frustration. We're human and we feel it all. What matters as we grow is how we manage those emotions. We can't stay kids forever, but we're not robots either. We do need to stand up for ourselves when something doesn't sit right. The key is finding the balance between expressing how we feel in a regulated way and knowing the right time and place to do it. If you listened to last season's episode, The Path to Influence, you know that the bullying I experienced led me down many emotional paths. Frustration, anger, and sadness were just a few. I felt wronged and treated poorly in the past, but that doesn't mean I need to act out on those emotions. Through the personal work I've done, some major realizations have come to the surface. While I've always believed I had a strong grasp on emotional intelligence, feeling deeply empathetic toward others and having had enough therapy to understand my emotions, I still tend to be blunt about what's right and what's wrong. Sometimes it can come across as impolite. From my perspective, I'm just stating the facts to get to the point. But this, along with other realizations, made me wonder if there's a deeper reason I respond the way I do. Something beyond what my Myers-Briggs, Big Five, or Enneagram types have told me. Lately, I've started thinking outside the box. I began adding up all the little things that made me feel different from the people around me. Why did I act that way? Why have I never been a team player? What really caused my depression? Why do I loathe small talk? Why was I so hyper-focused on achieving all my life goals by 30, no matter what? These questions and many more led me to explore the topic of neurodivergence. As we'll discuss later, one of the first steps to building emotional intelligence is self-awareness. It's recognizing things about yourself you may have never noticed. We are complex beings. You could spend your whole life trying to understand your psyche, your health, and your thought patterns. No two people are the same, and I find that fascinating. I love learning about who I am and how my mind works. Quick side note, isn't it wild how we're expected to keep learning about the world around us when we haven't even fully learned about ourselves? I mean, the mental capacity that takes is enormous. Anyway, I took some online assessments that suggested I may be on the autism spectrum. That made me pause. It actually explained quite a lot. But before jumping to conclusions, I scheduled a diagnostic evaluation with a professional, and the results confirmed that I have it, though it's highly masked. Still, I'm not afraid to dig deeper into who I am and why I function the way I do. The more I understand myself, the better that I can show up for others. This is just one example of emotional literacy. We can't always control what happens to us or how people treat us, but we can try to manage how we respond, learn from those reactions, and do better next time. Coming up after the break, where do we even begin? I'm Cassandra De Pecol, and you're listening to the DELCA podcast. Finding the right people to connect with to grow your business doesn't have to be a burden. We make it easy through DELCA. DELCA is a premier lifestyle brand catering to empowered individuals. With a focus on elevating every aspect of our members' lives, we offer elite memberships, advice through our newsletter and blog, transformative retreats, travel itineraries, and exclusive member privileges. Whether you're seeking personalized guidance, connection with other like-minded individuals, or unforgettable experiences, DELCA is here to help you unlock your full potential and live your best life. Visit www.delcalife.com. That's DELCALIFE.com to elevate and expand your connections for both business and friendship. Mention that you heard about us on this podcast and receive a 5% discount on our future launching boutique items and priority application review for our DELCA membership. The DELCA experience, it's a lifestyle. One of my good friends who prides himself on his understanding of people through emotional intelligence often references the Myers-Briggs framework. I find these things interesting too. He and I are always seeking to better understand others and ourselves. He always tells me I'm an INFJ, also known as the mastermind. I stands for introvert, N for intuitive, F for feel, and J for judge. When I took the test myself, my result was INTJ, with the T standing for think. If you haven't already figured out your own Myers-Briggs type, feel free to consider which psychological categories you relate to as I go through the next segment. You can also take this test online. You'll end up with 4 letters, one in each category: possible, logical, present, and personal, valuing, visioning, directing, and relating. He and I both agree that I embody the introvert personality more than extrovert. I love working alone, prefer a deliberate pace, and I like focusing on one task at a time. The N for intuitive describes someone who focuses on many possibilities and the big picture, seeking creative solutions to problems. That's definitely me. The S in this category stands for sensors, people who are more realistic, detail-oriented, and rely on common sense and past experiences to solve problems. I can probably relate to that one more now than I used to, but I digress. Now, this is where he disagrees with my test results. My results showed thinker instead of feeler. The T for thinkers refers to people who use logic and analysis, who objectively weigh pros and cons, and who value honesty, consistency, and fairness. I do think this reflects how I process things. The F for feelers refers to those who are sensitive and cooperative, who make decisions based on personal values and consider how their actions affect others. I'm not sure that describes me fully, but I can definitely relate to considering others when making decisions. That part fits. Finally, J stands for judgers, people who tend to be organized and prepared. They like to stick to plans and are comfortable with structure. P for perceivers describes people who prefer to stay flexible, act spontaneously, and leave options open. I definitely see myself as more a J than a P. I promise I'm going somewhere with all of this. Becoming self-aware about our emotional intelligence, literacy, and agility is the first step in learning how to manage and regulate emotions. It's important to pay attention to how we respond in certain situations. When someone says something that hits a nerve, why do we feel that way? Why are we defensive? Or why are we feeling nothing at all? Does a subject subtly make us sad or excited? I think it's crucial to dissect how we feel and, if we're curious enough, to try to find out why. Anyone who has gone through talk therapy knows that a lot of our emotional responses come from our upbringing or significant life experiences. The journey to self-awareness is lifelong, but it's also deeply fascinating. What is emotional intelligence, or EQ, anyway? Emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive, control, and evaluate emotions. It includes emotional awareness, the ability to use emotions to guide thinking and problem solving, and the ability to manage emotions, both your own and other people's. Psychologist and author Daniel Goleman, who wrote the 1995 book Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ, outlines 5 key domains of EQ: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. One of my favorite quotes by him is, quote unquote, "CEOs are hired for their intellect and business expertise and fired for their lack of emotional intelligence," end quote. I think about how often we've had bosses who lashed out in frustration just to feel like they were right. Maybe they made you feel misunderstood, or maybe it was a partner who lacked emotional intelligence without realizing it, and you took the emotional hit every day, trying to help them understand themselves, even though that wasn't your responsibility. Maybe you're a parent trying to help your child become more emotionally aware. Whatever the situation, part of growth is recognizing these things in others and within ourselves. We're not perfect, but the more we learn about how we function emotionally, the better humans we become. For me, I'm constantly setting goals to be my best self. That growth doesn't come from ignoring how I treat others and myself. It comes from facing my flaws and choosing to improve. If you love learning more about yourself through personality tests, a couple of other great ones are the Big Five and the Enneagram. The Big Five defines personality using 5 main traits: openness, conscientiousness, agreeableness, extroversion, and neuroticism. The Enneagram is stem-rooted in ancient spiritual traditions that describe 9 interconnected personality types. It explores how we interpret the world through our core motivations and how we manage our emotions, fears, and desires. When we come back in just a moment, we'll explore how to master your emotional responses and turn vulnerability into strength. How well do you understand your emotions? Can you adapt to life's ever-changing challenges? Are you ready to face your feelings with courage and clarity? Or will old habits keep you stuck? I'm Cassandra De Pecol, and you're listening to the DELCA podcast. Dying to get your business up and running but don't know where to begin? Are you sick of the extensive fees it'll take for web development, PR, marketing campaigns, and hiring people to get you there? Maybe you need Elevated. Elevated is a full-service brand agency that will get your business up and running fast and at a low cost, without sacrificing the quality and efficiency of your business. Visit elevated.com. That's ELEVATXD.com and get a free website and business roadmap when you sign up for one of our monthly plans. Don't worry, we've got you covered with up to 50 brand development services, including branding, design, marketing, social media management, content creation, web development, strategy consulting, financial and sponsorship decks, and so much more. Get your business launched fast, at low cost, and without sacrificing the quality and luxury you deserve. Visit elevated.com. Again, that's ELEVATXD.com and claim your free website and business roadmap. Again, that's ELEVATXD.com. Elevate your business with Elevated. We left off reflecting on emotional IQ, the ability to perceive, control, and evaluate our emotions. Emotional literacy is considered a key component of emotional intelligence, focusing specifically on the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and appropriately express emotions. It involves accurately labeling emotions, communicating them to others, and interpreting other people's emotions effectively. Emotional literacy is foundational. It begins with having the vocabulary to describe what we feel and being able to express those feelings with clarity. As I'm not a therapist or professional in the field of human emotions, I turn to research, specifically to the work of several authors and their findings through literature. In the book Emotional Intelligence, author Daniel Goleman emphasizes the importance of self-awareness as the first step in emotional control. He explains that recognizing one's emotional states is key to managing them effectively. In Permission to Feel, author Mark Brackett focuses on emotional literacy, stressing the importance of accurately labeling our emotions to better understand and manage them. While we're on the topic of understanding and managing emotions, psychologist and author Paul Ekman, in his book Emotions Revealed, explores the universality of basic emotions and how understanding common emotional patterns across cultures can help us manage them. He discusses how recognizing the triggers behind our emotions can lead to better regulation, especially when we consciously adjust our responses. I mean, that makes sense, right? So, if emotional intelligence is about evaluating our emotions and emotional literacy is about handling and expressing them, what comes next? If we're serious about bettering ourselves, the next step is adaptation and adjustment. That brings us to emotional agility. Emotional agility is the ability to be flexible with your thoughts and feelings so that you can respond effectively to everyday situations. The concept was introduced by psychologist and Harvard Medical School professor Susan David. She describes it as the process that helps individuals move through life's challenges with self-acceptance, clarity, and openness. Unlike emotional intelligence, which focuses on perception and evaluation, and emotional literacy, which focuses on recognition and expression, emotional agility is about navigating emotions with adaptivity and fluidity. It's the skill of moving through discomfort without avoiding it. In her book, Emotional Agility, Susan David argues for the acceptance of emotional complexity. She suggests that emotional agility means facing your emotions with courage, curiosity, and compassion, rather than pushing them away or pretending they don't exist. To put it simply, emotional intelligence gives us the broad framework for emotional awareness and control. Emotional literacy helps us identify and communicate what we feel, while emotional agility adds the ability to adapt and respond with intention, especially in the face of stress or change. I think two traits I really value in others and in myself are empathy and vulnerability. Personally, I find it difficult to connect with someone who shows no vulnerability and lacks empathy for others. Both traits are essential for building deep, meaningful relationships, enhancing personal growth, and fostering a compassionate society, in my opinion. They also play a key role in emotional regulation, resilience, and authenticity. These qualities encourage people to engage more openly about their emotional experiences. I've never shielded away from expressing my deepest, darkest feelings and experiences, even with strangers, let alone millions of people online. One of the most significant moments I did this was on the TED stage in front of 3,500 people when I opened up about my depression. I admire people who can express their vulnerabilities with me. It's actually how some of my strongest friendships have formed. I found that if someone can't open up to me in the way I do with them, chances are we're not going to become the closest of friends. In Daring Greatly, author Brené Brown discusses vulnerability as a strength. She argues that acknowledging and embracing our vulnerability leads to greater emotional control and resilience. There's something powerful about being able to connect with others on an emotional level, especially when they're going through something hard. Chances are we can relate to each other in some way, whether through personal experience or through someone we know. Opening up and sharing your experiences with vulnerability takes courage. It shows strength and resilience, and it creates a sense of belonging and authenticity for both people involved. In one of her books, Brown explains that standing alone in your authenticity requires the ability to manage discomfort and emotional exposure. Those two things are essential for true belonging. The last topic I wanted to talk about is empathy. If you listened to last season's episode on influencer culture, you'll remember me talking about the Brazilian influencer with over 1 million followers who bullied me relentlessly. They didn't care whether I took my own life. In fact, they encouraged it. Sometimes it's easy to spot people who lack basic empathy. They attack others for no clear reason. They feel nothing towards someone going through a difficult situation. A lack of empathy can show up in many ways and often disrupts relationships and social interactions. The empath in me wants to forgive and understand these people, maybe even educate them. But it isn't entirely their fault. Maybe they have a condition that prevents them from connecting emotionally with others. And I even have empathy towards that. In my research, I've come across general behaviors often linked with a lack of empathy. People with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, may exhibit a reduced ability to understand or care about others' feelings. They tend to focus on their own desires and often ignore the emotional needs of those around them. If you've encountered someone with NPD, you know how difficult and draining those interactions can be. Many times, they don't even realize they have it, which makes it even harder. Another condition that can lead to a lack of empathy is antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD, which is sometimes associated with sociopathic or psychopathic traits. Additionally, some people on the spectrum may have difficulty expressing or interpreting empathy, not because they don't feel it, but because of the challenges with social communication and processing. There are also people who lack empathy due to poor upbringing. Emotional detachment caused by depression or other mental health issues can also blunt someone's ability to connect emotionally. But sometimes it's not easy to identify the reason. Is it really their fault? Did they choose to not develop empathy, or were they born without that capacity? It's a complicated question. I believe the answer lies in a combination of neurological, genetic, environmental, psychological, and social factors. Still, I do think there's a degree of choice. Some people show deep empathy toward their family or pets, but show none toward strangers. That tells me empathy can be selective. So maybe in some cases, it is a choice. I remember some of my earliest moments of feeling deep empathy in childhood. Those moments shaped how I respond to suffering now. Whether it was a person or an animal, seeing pain in others brought a visceral reaction in me. Even now, when I witness suffering, I feel it physically. Their pain becomes mine. This kind of empathy has made life more intense to navigate. I absorb other people's emotions so deeply that it's often hard to separate them from my own. Sometimes one of the hardest emotional challenges is navigating long-term conflict with someone who seems unable or unwilling to regulate their emotions or show empathy. You're not always sure what that version of them you'll get. Their reactions feel unpredictable, intense, and sometimes deeply personal, even if you've said or done nothing to provoke it. It's exhausting, especially when you're doing everything you can to stay grounded, composed, and emotionally self-aware. These situations can really test your emotional intelligence. They push you to grow, to practice restraint, and to rely on your values instead of your reactions. I've learned that no matter how calm or silent you are, some people will still project their inner chaos onto you. And it's not your job to absorb it. It's your job to protect your peace. But I believe that with self-awareness, people can learn empathy. Through therapy, education, and practice, anyone can develop it. Daniel Goleman writes about empathy as a pillar of emotional intelligence. He explains that understanding others helps you manage your own reactions and build stronger connections. Author Mark Brackett emphasizes the importance of emotionally supportive environments. He advocates for spaces where people can express emotions openly and learn how to regulate them. Therapy plays a huge role in that. I know so many people who have never been to therapy, and they have their reasons. But I think that before anyone walks into a therapist's office, they should do a deep dive, perhaps, into their emotional psyche. Ask yourself why you act the way you do. Is it past trauma? Was it a bad experience in therapy before? Understanding your own resistance is part of the work. Then take that knowledge into the session. These are just my personal thoughts, of course. I'm not a licensed professional, but I've been in therapy for most of my life, and through my own research, I've learned a thing or two. Emotional intelligence, emotional literacy, and emotional agility are all connected, but each has a distinct role in how we understand and manage our emotions. In today's episode, enriched with insights from experts and real-life stories, we explored how mastering our emotions can enhance our lives. This deep dive showed that understanding and managing emotions is not just beneficial, it's essential for personal growth and building stronger relationships. We've seen how emotional intelligence plays a major role in our everyday lives, from individuals like Shou Chu, who remain composed under pressure, to navigating emotions during general conflicts or confronting personal challenges. It's clear that emotional intelligence, literacy, and agility shape our well-being and relationships. These skills help us manage life's highs and lows with greater resilience and grace. By recognizing and understanding our emotions, we move closer to genuine self-awareness. This journey not only improves our lives, it also contributes to building a more empathetic and emotionally connected world. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a topic you'd like me to speak on, or a person who you think I should interview on the show, or if you have a story you'd like to share, feel free to email us at hello@delcalife.com. That's hello@DELCALIFE.com. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at DELCALife. All of the information shared in the DELCA podcast is based on opinion and/or facts. Until next time.